All right, happy Monday. Welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We begin tonight with actually some breaking news from the FBI. Now, the Bureau offering a $50,000 award for the information leading to the arrest of the Brown University shooter. Now, the Bureau says they believe the shooter to be armed and dangerous because he did just shoot up a university. We're going to have more on this later in the show. Also, Hollywood director Rob Reiner and his wife were actually found dead yesterday morning after an apparent homicide. Now, Reiner's son, Nick, who has a history of drug abuse, was in fact arrested and booked in jail. He's being held on a $4 million bail, shockingly enough, in California. And President Trump today honoring the tens of thousands of troops who have served at the U.S.-Mexico border.
Today, we're here to honor our military men and women for their central role in the protection of our border, something that I campaigned very, very strongly on.
Some of those guys actually seen combat over there. We're going to have more on this later in the show. But first, there's a common denominator. Perhaps maybe we shouldn't ignore it in the name of diversity. Let's do this. Man, this was a pretty horrendous weekend, actually. We had 2 U.S. troops killed in Syria, a beach shot up in Australia, terrorist attack on the Christmas celebration thwarted in Germany, New Year's Eve celebration canceled in France because of terror concerns, terrorist attack thwarted here in America in L.A., and a mass shooting at Brown University. But let's talk about the 2 underlying causes for almost all of these tragedies and these attacks, all these problems globally, with the rare exception that we know now of Brown University. I'll get to that later in the show. If you haven't learned this by now, folks, I can't help you. But let me reiterate this. The government cannot protect you. They will not protect you. And everything they do while saying they will protect you doesn't actually protect you. Then the other common denominator for everything outside of the Brown shooting, as far as we know, is, of course, Islam. Let's go down the list of this weekend's events first. Listen to this. The one I care about the most is the attack and killing of 2 of our troops in Syria. 2 troops are now dead, a 25 and 29-year-old soldier, Sergeant Edgar Bryan Torres and Sergeant William Nathan Howard, at the hands of a radical Muslim said to be associated with ISIS. And guess what, libs? And anyone else who thinks taking in refugees from that area is somehow like a good idea, this guy was apparently vetted. Just like the guy we let in who shot up the National Guardsman a few weeks ago in D.C. Look, I worked with people like this all the time in Iraq. Vetted just means that we couldn't find any record of them being bad. Wow, great. No record of something in a country that most of which doesn't even use toilet paper. Sounds reliable. I mean, like, what are you vetting them against? Trump's got the right idea here.
Mr. President, will the U.S. retaliate against ISIS?
Yeah, we will.
And should U.S. forces are attacked again?
You're going to be seen.
And should the U.S. still be
We will retaliate. Thank you very much.
Good. Sorry, not sorry, Syria. Now this is happening. I mean, like, make the Iran nuclear facility attack look like a training mission. I want parking lots where cities once stood. I don't get, oh, Carl, this was a lone wolf. How many lone wolf attacks from an organized fighting force does the world need to see in order to understand that Syria, among other countries in the region, all failed to stop the resurgence of ISIS under Joe Biden? As far as I'm concerned, the whole region should be held accountable and targeted, quite frankly. And after the dust clears, no nation building. Just let them clean up the pieces. It's not our problem. Time to get serious. I'm a no new wars kind of guy. So let's just not have a war. Let's just have a full-scale training mission that just happens to be right over the area that ISIS exists. The other one that I'm honestly surprised actually it took this long to happen, tragically, but Australia, with almost 2/3 of its Muslim population being foreign born, where the people they're letting into their country, folks, they're screaming. I mean, look at the video right here. They're screaming Allahu Akbar, waving Palestinian flags, walking through the airport, not Australian flags, not coming from, Delaware, okay? Remember how I said that the government won't protect you? The same people who allowed that clear and present danger to just stroll right in, saying exactly what they're going to do in an effort to protect their community and make it safer. Remember back in 1996, they had this like huge sweeping gun ban where they just ran over guns with steamrollers, which I think should be a crime. But they just did it openly in the street. Now, to be fair, like most gun bans, it didn't work because there's now more guns on the street than there were right after the gun ban. But just to show you how detached the people making and enforcing these laws in Australia actually are, let's just take a look at what the Prime Minister said minutes after the shooting.
Director General of Asia has warned about a range of threats, be it anti-Semitism, the rise of right-wing extremist groups as well. And we continue to work closely with our security agencies. And I want to conclude finally by saying that the government is prepared to take whatever action is necessary.
Yeah, that was the problem this past Sunday on the beach. Right-wing extremism. Oh yeah, and guns in the hands of law-abiding. No, nothing to do with the fact that they allowed a culture of this guy here riding a horse on a beach waving a Palestinian flag. And then the cops just question him after, hey, what are you doing here? Oh, they just let him go. Also, after all this virtue signaling, Australia, they just did all this stuff, like declaring Palestine a state. After all that, their police officers, who are, by the way, so good at arresting unvaxxed surfers in the ocean by themselves and putting people in quarantine camps during COVID for not wearing a mask, SWAT raids on people for hate speech. Those officers, the responding officers to this shooting, happen to be women, by the way, they did absolutely nothing. One of them hands up, another one hiding behind her car, not shooting back. I mean, how's that de-escalation training working for you, officers? Huh? Because that was the contract in Australia when they did this gun ban. You turn in your guns and the police will defend you. It's right there on their website. They didn't do it. And from what I've seen, it's my opinion, actually, that I think those cops should probably go to jail for this. The same jail they threw people in for, thought crimes for 16 months at a time. And the one guy who did something, look at this guy, some old cat, good on him. Total hero in my mind. He tackles this dude, and then he gets his gun, and he didn't shoot him when he took control of the weapon, probably because he had no idea what he was doing because he never held one. Also, I just want to point out that this shooter, look at this. Look at that cyclical rate on a bolt-action rifle. Doesn't strike me as like some run-of-the-mill jihadi. That dude had training. I know this because I spent years training Iraqi forces, and not once have I ever seen any Iraqi partner force that I trained for a ton of time cycle a bolt-action rifle that quickly and accurately? Oh, you missed that in your vetting, did you, Aussies? And after all that, a member of your parliament still blabbing on about like diversity trash that got you here.
Well, we should try and detoxify the way that we think of people who aren't like us, because our diversity in this country is our strength.
Clearly not. I mean, what's it going to take to make these people realize that diversity is and never was your greatest strength, and it never will be? Here's another one over the weekend in Germany. Again, what's the common denominator here? Muslims. And they didn't even need guns for this one. I mean, thank God, because they're banned there. I'm sure that was in the terrorist consideration, too. That's why they chose vehicles. But it did involve Muslims targeting Christians, specifically at a Christmas celebration. Slide a few hundred miles west, France, they won't even hold. They've canceled their New Year's celebration because they're in fear for Christian. Oh, no, not Christian. I'm sorry. Muslim terrorism on New Year's Eve. They're massive Muslim refugee population, a la Charlie Hebdo, by the way, and others. Another really great job with the diversity stuff, Europe. Swell. I'm sure your people are thrilled. Stop electing your people who do this. But here in America, too, L.A., our own FBI here just foiled a New Year's attack. From who? Oh, radical Palestinian wannabes. Palestine ain't exactly a Christian movement, guys. And yet, despite all this, no one on the left, and even some moderate Republicans, honestly, have stopped to think that, hey, maybe there's a problem with Islam's compatibility with the entire rest of the world's culture. Iraq just lowered the age of marriage to 9 years old. But yeah, let's bring those people in here. That should be fine. And many of the 56 Muslim countries practice genital mutilation, beating women, you know, in the name of Sharia law. So it's legal, of course. They have ethnic cleansing there. I mean, look what's going on in Africa. Muslims shooting Christians at like record rates. But if Islam was, you know, so great and peaceful, again, there's like 50-something Muslim countries, all closer to the areas that they're fleeing from than Europe and especially the United States. And yet no one is trying to seek refugee status in those countries. Islam is a religion that has perpetually been at war with somebody. I say religion. I think it's more of a political ideology. But it's been at war with basically somebody since its inception. I mean, don't listen to me. They're saying it themselves. Watch.
We don't have this aqidah concept firm in our minds that Islam did not come to coexist.
Then bounce. Get out. So what's it going to take for stupid people to realize that it's not going to end well anywhere that Islam comes to and clashes with the culture? It does things that are vastly different from what's allowable by our society and our Western values, especially the Constitution. Look, are some Muslims coming here okay with living within our laws? Yes, I'm friends with some of them. Sure, but there are a lot that are not. And keep this in mind. I'm going to leave you with this. The State Department says that radical Muslims, 10% of Muslims are reported to be radicalized. 10%. There's 2.5 billion. That's 250 radicalized people on this planet against people like us. Honestly, like, my way of life, my culture, my customs, and my country are way more important than diversity ever will be. The bottom line is, you're your own best defense, and you got to keep your head on a swivel, and the government's not going to save you. God and genetics gave us this common sense and intuition for a reason. Don't ignore it to fit into some social justice club, because it might get you killed. And I'll leave you with the closing statement at the dedication of the Statue of Liberty in 1886. I still stand by this. It says, quote, "There is room in America and brotherhood for all who support our institutions and aid our development. But those who come to disturb our peace and dethrone our laws are aliens and enemies forever." Doug Hamlin, CEO, EVP of the National Rifle Association, Zuhdi Jasser, founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, National Security, and Middle East expert. Okay, Zuhdi, I'll go to you first on this. It's a real problem that there's failure to recognize legitimate threats and divide them from, immigration policy even.
Yeah, and thank you for your comments. I can't tell you enough how much, I've been saying this since 9/11 and testified to Congress multiple times that we can continue the whack-a-mole program or we can realize a very American battle. Our country was founded on a battle against theocracy. Islam in its 1400 plus years has not defeated theocracy. And there are Muslims on our side in this battle within for freedom. And there are 30 to 40%, actually, the radicalized that are militants are 10%, as you said. 30 to 40% believe in political parties that are Islamist supremacists, that divide the world into the land of Islam and the land of war. That's their worldview. So as we celebrate our 250th anniversary, you exponentially add that quarter of a Muslim population, a quarter of the world, to the leftist, the green axis of China and Russia and others that are radicalizing our youth that don't even know where Palestine is and yet are screaming pro-Hamas stuff. You end up with a massive, massive threat that we've allowed in domestically and globally, geopolitically. So we've got a lot of work to do. We need to go on offense against political Islam. And our Clarity Coalition, claritycoalition.org, has been focused on reformers within that want to defend and save the West.
Right. But Doug, obviously, as the EVP of the NRA here, I mean, we're talking about people being able to defend themselves. And not even the cops carry guns in Australia. But here in America, if you carry a gun, like I do basically everywhere I go that's legal, that's considered some right-wing extremist thing, even though mine have never shot anybody in this country.
Yeah, Carl, you're right. You mentioned at the top of your show, it was a rough weekend, both internationally and here at home. And the difference between the international crowd and those of us here in the United States, we do have a Second Amendment. It's a God-given constitutional right that our founding fathers wrote into our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. And unfortunately, some folks in certain jurisdictions want to preempt those rights. And I'm a concealed carry permit holder in Virginia, but if I cross the Potomac River into the District of Columbia, I'm a felon. So we stand with those law-abiding citizens out there, our members, who are prepared to defend themselves, their families, their homes, their businesses. And we're working hard every day to make sure that those rights are ensured.
Yeah, I can tell you, if I witnessed a mass shooting and I was there, the bad guy would be taking a dirt nap, and I don't think they understand that in other countries. Zuhdi, the other thing here is you've got people like me. Look, I was in the military, fought largely in predominantly, well, actually all Muslim countries, and you've got people like me who are like ready to throw their hands up in the air and say, you know what, just go back to Trump's original term, which was I'm stopping all Muslim migration until I can figure out further. Am I wrong for being, hey, let's stop it all until we can figure this out?
Absolutely not. I mean, in the Cold War, Carl, we prohibited immigration of communists, folks that were sympathizers to the Soviet ideology, and it was on the immigration paperwork. Now, was that foolproof? No, but it was better than not vetting. And it's not only vetting immigrants that are coming in across our border or otherwise. How about vetting within the police forces, within the FBI, within the Pentagon, and others? We have no filter for Islamist ideology, and those folks are going to be working against us from within our security forces. Some of them are getting elected to mayorships in New York City, in London, and elsewhere, and there's no public vetting against the radical ideology of political Islam, and we need to take... We need to start an offense.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Doug Hamlin, Zuhdi Jasser, we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Stay free. All right, I want to get back to the shooting in Australia more broadly this weekend. Brian Lieb, CEO of Henry PR, foreign policy advisor to Congressman Abe Hamadeh. All right, so, Brian, I look at this, and apparently there was like some knowledge of that this might happen beforehand. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, we've heard some reports about that too, Carl. And listen, you made a comment in your opening monologue about the way he was operating that bold action. I mean, that was someone that knew how to use a gun. And I think people like this have been on the radar for some time in Australia. It's really a horrible situation that unfolded. Yeah. Yeah,
and when we see these mass shootings again, always tragic, but I can't help but notice it's like they're starting to happen more frequently in areas that we were told wouldn't be victims of gun crime, wouldn't be victims of these. You had like Charlie Hebdo in France going back a few years. You have this one. You have countless other ones where people aren't supposed to have guns. They don't listen to gun laws, obviously, whatever the nation thing is. And then these tragedies happen, and there's always one common denominator. And what do you do at this point?
You know, you're right, Carl. The common denominator is that these are happening in places where the average person can't get a gun. And also the other common denominator is it is radical Islamists all around the country, here in the United States and around the world. We've got a serious problem going on right now with radical Islamists. As you said in your monologue, this is not a society that's compatible with our Judeo-Christian values here in America in any way, shape, or form. And I think we've got to start speaking clearly about this, not just going on offense, as your previous guest said. We've got to declare war on radical Islam that's happening here on our own borders here in America and around the world, because more and more people are going to be killed. First they come for the Jews, then they come for the Christians. Jews and Christians are under attack everywhere in this country, everywhere around the world. Common denominator, 9 out of 10 times, radical Islam.
Yeah, I know, shocker. And in the name of diversity, they don't want to get it. But anyway, Brian Lieb, we appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Carl.
All right. Coming up, the left makes it clear they will begin going after ICE agents if they regain power after Trump leaves office. Sweet, try me in just a bit. But first, the House Oversight Committee drops a major bombshell shedding new light on the potential corruption within the D.C. Metro Police Force under its current leadership. And anyone going to jail for this? Committee Chair James Comer joins me next.
Will you be able to afford your golden years? Do you worry how you'll make ends meet? You may be leaving up to $100,000 unclaimed. You need this special report. How to boost your Social Security and retirement by at least $100,000 or more. Get your free copy today. You've earned the benefits. Take advantage now. See our special offer to claim your free report. Call or go online today.
What kind of gift can $29 get you these days? It could send someone overseas, drop them in their ancestral village, and give them a taste of their heritage. From mom's side and dad's side, it can open a whole new world of faraway places and fascinating people that make them who they are today. That's a big gift for a small price.
They killed her brother. They shot her dog. And they took her hostage for 400 days and terrifying nights. They raped her. They put guns to her head. They starved her. These are the stories of Israeli women attacked by Hamas. If you are supporting Hamas and radicalized Palestinians, this is what you are supporting. Choose freedom, not terror.
This isn't your average pill. This is Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks is a fast-acting solution because it dissolves under your tongue.
Rose Sparks.
Guys, get started today.
Connect with a provider to find out if Rose Sparks are right for you.
Hey guys, Viagra is not your only option. Rose Sparks act fast and stay active longer. They aren't pills. Sparks dissolve under your tongue to reach your bloodstream for speedy results. Connect with a provider at rhode.co/sparks.
All right, the House Oversight Committee releasing a bombshell report over the weekend revealing that the D.C. police chief, Pamela Smith, deliberately manipulated crime data in order to maintain the appearance of somewhat low crime in our nation's capital. And the report coming from interviews with commanders of the D.C. Metro Police who described the environment under Smith as marked by fear and intimidation, threats of retaliation, saying they were pressured to lower crime stats by, quote, any means necessary, and that Smith pushed for frequent use of lesser charges that were not publicly reported. Chief Smith is scheduled to resign at the end of the month. I say do it now, but whatever. Congressman James Comer is the chair of the House Oversight Committee. Look, Congressman, you spend 50% of your life in this city. It doesn't make you feel safe, does it?
No, look, everyone knew that crime was escalating in the city, despite the fact that the Democrats in Congress and the Democrats in Washington, D.C. tried to convince the American people otherwise. They tried to say crime was down when we knew that didn't sound right. But thankfully, in this investigation, when we launched it, we had whistleblowers come forward. These were active duty Metro police officers in Washington, D.C., who said they were told to be dishonest about the crime statistics to make it look like crime was going down in a city that was infested with crime.
Yeah, it's shocking. And we've seen this all over the country, not just D.C., but there's reports of these law enforcement. I mean, look, we have the receipts right here. These law enforcement agencies, here, Lopez de Jesus Francisco and Dominguez Toto Yanko Gabriel, like, these are not white people, yet they're labeling them as white when they're arrested for, like, gang violence and stuff like this all the time. Who's going to jail for this?
Well, in Washington, D.C., unless you commit murder, nobody's going to jail. That's been the problem in Washington, D.C. They have a liberal Metro Council that has passed excessive criminal justice reforms to the point to where unless you commit a murder, you're not going to have to be held accountable. And what you see is criminals, they commit crimes in the morning in Washington, D.C., and then they're out back on the streets, and by the evening they commit the same crime again. This happens over and over and over, and our brave men and women in the Metro Police Department, they finally came forward and said enough is enough. Not only are our criminal justice laws in Washington, D.C. a joke that you know, inspire criminals to come to Washington, D.C., but we also have crime statistics that are not factual. We've been told to lie about the crime statistics to show that the crime was going down when in fact it was going up. That's what they used, these statistics, when President Trump ordered the National Guard to come to Washington, D.C. The Democrats in Congress and Democrats in Washington, D.C., they tried to say, oh, but look, the facts are that crime's going down, when every single one of us who have to work in Washington, D.C. know this is a crime-infested city.
Yeah, no, exactly. Here's something, though, Chairman Comer, that I've been very vocal about Republicans doing more. You're one of the guys who's gotten to the bottom of a lot of investigations. You referred things over the Justice Department. But I keep saying, John Q. Public is stuff's just not getting done. We just still don't have a budget. Nobody's gone to jail. We're not implementing. I think only 5 in Trump's first 100 days. 5 things were signed into law. I'm real worried that Republicans are going to lose the House in less than a year if they don't start putting some W's on the board. What is the holdup? Where is Mike Johnson? Why can't we get a budget? Why can't we put people in jail? Why can't we do anything that was said and promised on the campaign trail?
Well, you could look at which Republicans in Congress consistently vote against the president. I think that's self-explanatory. Anyone that keeps up with can look. We have a handful of Republicans, a couple of whom are from my state of Kentucky, that just, they oppose the president on everything. And I don't agree with President Trump on everything, but we've got Republicans that oppose him on everything, and it makes it very difficult to get to 218 in the House. And then when you get 218 in the House, you have to go back and get 60 in the Senate. Thankfully, that big, beautiful bill only required a majority of votes in the Senate, so that passed, and I think that's substantial. But with respect to holding people accountable, I share your pain. I am very frustrated. We've worked very hard on the Oversight Committee with the Biden family investigation, with Dr. Fauci's investigations. We have criminal referrals sitting at the Department of Justice right now. So we're strongly encouraging Attorney General Bondi to take those investigations and run with them because the evidence is overwhelming. The auto pin scandal, these pardons should be kicked out. There's no question about it. So hopefully that we'll see some action soon.
Yeah. Well, the American people, myself included, are also strongly pushing Pam Bondi to do something. Chairman James Comer, we appreciate it, sir.
Yep. Thanks.
All right, coming up, Joey B's ambitious plans for some grand presidential library in Delaware might not be happening. A stunning lack of money there. And that and more on Culture Clash.
Phytonutrients are naturally occurring plant nutrients. Balance of Nature is an easy way to give your body more of a variety of phytonutrients that might be missing from your everyday diet.
Go to balanceofnature.com and get the whole health system at our best price for life.
Drop is finally here. Drop delivers the weight loss benefits of GLP-1 injections in easy-to-use oral drops, no needles.
That's right. The two big drawbacks with weight loss injections are high costs in weekly injections. Drop is flavorless and odorless, so you can just add it to water or your favorite beverage. Drop offers other advantages over injections too. With Drop, you can personalize your dosage based on your weight loss goals.
And because you add Drop to any liquid, there's no concern about injection site infections, bruising, or dosage confusion.
Drop is the easier, safer, cost-effective alternative to help you achieve your weight loss goals without the needles.
Can't find it anywhere? The Wellness Company has it. No consultation needed. Simply order online and use promo code SLIM to save $100. Visit dropthepounds.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at dropthepounds.com/slim.
Do you have a yo-yo smile? Sometimes yellow, sometimes white. It's a constant battle between everyday stains and whitening treatments. Until now, get Smile Actives, the daily teeth whitening breakthrough that gives you a more youthful smile and helps you keep it.
At 43 years old, I don't mess around with products that waste my time. Smile Actives is easy, and it works. No gloopy trays, no messy strips. Just add a little bit on top of your toothpaste when you brush your teeth. And ta-da, white teeth.
Just add Smile Actives to your favorite toothpaste and watch the magic happen. Our patented Polyclean microfoam lifts away deep stains for a dramatically younger and whiter smile.
You have a choice. You can have those yellow teeth and just be old Nana or Pop-Pop, or you can be smiling and dazzling and full of confidence. I love my white teeth.
Scan, click, or call for your whitest smile yet. And if you order right now, we'll double your whitening free. Get an extra Smile Actives as our free gift to you, but only while supplies last.
I drink coffee
every day. I started noticing that my teeth were not as bright as I'd like them to be, a little dingy, but Smile Active, it works. Got your boy gleaming.
100% of users saw whiter teeth. Smile Actives lifts away even the toughest stains from coffee, wine, and food, gently restoring your bright, youthful smile. Plus, it's safe for veneers, crowns, and dentures.
It's really a no-brainer if you want to whiten your teeth.
Clinically shown to brighten your teeth 5 shades whiter in just 7 days.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Act now. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll double your order free. But hurry, this deal won't last. Smile Actives is guaranteed to work. Whiten your teeth or get your money back. No questions asked. Don't wait. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. That's free shipping. A free extra bottle. That's an incredible 58% savings. Scan the code, go to smileactives.com or call to get your beautiful whiter smile now.
Nearly home. Who done it?
We're looking for a house closer to everything, but we don't know where to start.
Find it with Realtor.com. With Real Commute, it's easy to find a home closer to what's ever close to your heart. Do y'all recycle? Realtor.com.
Womp womp. Joe Biden's presidential library dream is probably in jeopardy, probably not happening. I mean, I don't even think he knows he's building one. But the New York Times, of all places, reporting that the former Autopen is having a tough time raising money for his presidential library. Weird. The paper actually saying, get this, no new donations last year. But what's worse is his library foundations is expected to only bring in a little over 11 million of the 200 million that it needs, which is 1/20th. Kind of reinforces all that Act Blue fraud we talked about a year ago or so. 80 million votes. Gay. Principal of 917 Strategies, Sarah Selip, and reporter at the Daily Caller, Ashley Brasfield. Ashley, he had billions of dollars in the bank for his presidential election.
Yeah, I don't know what happened here. I mean, I think if you want to compare it to something, you can compare it to the Obama library, which still isn't done yet either. But
it's very diverse in the people putting it together, Ashley.
Oh, yes. And, completely concrete, no windows in the middle of the south side of Chicago. It's a really appealing architectural feat, I would say, in a lot of ways.
Right.
But yeah, Joe Biden, he has all these buildings at Penn University. That's his alma mater, or as suppose he says, I guess. But this is in University of Delaware and elsewhere. So I don't really know why he needs a library. Everything's already named after him. That's the upside of being a Democrat, I would say.
Yeah, the Penn Biden Center, I think, got $50 million from the Chinese, Sarah. I mean, but also there's this growing trend of ultra-wealthy Chinese billionaires and elites. In fact, one of them's having dozens of U.S.-born babies via surrogate. I'm like, well, they can't beat us at, anything else, so they're just going to, start surrogatizing in America?
I mean, this is what happens when you can't play sports, right? You got to try something else that involves a little bit of exercise. But so that being said, it's just kind of weird. It's kind of creepy, but kudos to them for thinking outside of the box. Honestly, we should not be surprised. They're trying to infiltrate every single aspect of American culture. I just never thought I'd see the day when this was a headline.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing, too, Ashley, is the DOJ is actually, Harmeet Dillon said this is not what birthright citizenship was intended for. Okay, it's not in the subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And they're challenging whether or not this is going to be, going forward. The Supreme Court's hearing this.
Yeah, I mean, they should. I think Harmeet Dillon's right on this. When I saw this headline, I was completely shocked, to say the least. But, the Chinese, we have an issue across the country. I mean, they come into our country, they go to our universities, we let them in, and then they get to, spy on our military installations and be spies in our universities. So this is just another overstep from the Chinese government and citizens alone.
Yeah, I'm sure the Confucius Institutes all over at our college universities are totally fine. There's no malice intended there. Oversight from Democrats. This is the greatest thing ever, Sarah. The Democrats took a picture of Trump in the newly released Epstein files, blurred the faces of women to make it seem like they were underage, and it turns out that all these women and all these pictures were already public because they were part of Trump's modeling agency and his Miss America stuff. So these were all 22, 25-year-old women that were in the modeling agency already.
Carl, I literally have no words at this point. Like, if you're going to RSVP to something, most of the time, I mean, we know this in this day and age, you have to agree that, you're giving images and likeness, for photographers, right? But these women opted to be there. Democrats opted to release 40,000 or whatever number of, pictures. And then the only things they can find with, damning evidence are things with women who actually wanted to be there in the first place.
Who described him as gentlemanly, mind you. Real quick, Ashley, singer Nicki Minaj. I never thought she'd be an ally. Mine just didn't strike me as somebody, but she's slamming Gavin Newsom for wanting to see trans kids. She posted on X, imagine being the guy running on wanting to see trans kids, ha ha ha. Not even a trans adult would run on that. Normal adults wake up and they think to see healthy, safe, and happy kids. Well, I mean, like, clearly pinched a nerve with Newsom's director of communications, who posted back on X calling her a stupid hoe with a picture of a T-shirt of her face in the trash. Like, this is, got her.
Yeah, got her not. This is an issue that strikes a nerve with me. I'm a former Division I athlete, so I fully support Nicki Minaj here. I mean, she's sitting here protecting Christians, going up, talking about this at the UN, and now she's, going after Gavin Newsom, which she's not the only one. Remember last week, Halle Berry went after him because he wasn't supporting, middle-aged women even. So it seems like there's a trend happening here for good old Gavin Newsom. But, his comms director calling her a stupid hoe, I mean, that's another level in itself. You know what I'm going to call her? She's, instead of super bass like her song, super based.
Yeah. I mean, look, these people, they scream, oh, civility, and then they come out and call Nicki Minaj a hoe. But whatever. Sarah, Selip, Ashley, we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, an urgent manhunt underway in Rhode Island as the police race to find the gunman who opened fire at the campus of Brown University, killing 2 and injuring 9 other students. Those details next.
People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.
Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about YRefi. Did you know that as an accredited investor, when you invest in YRefi, your interest rate is fixed? And did you know that you can invest from 1 to 5 years and you can spread your investment over those terms to best suit your needs? And you have the freedom to take your monthly interest income or reinvest it, whatever you choose. When you invest in YRefi, your interest is calculated daily, you're paid monthly, and should you need your money back early, there is a liquidity feature. Would you like more information? All you have to do is call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST, or log on to investyrrefi.com. That's investyrrefi.com for complete details. And make sure you review the private placement memorandum and scan this QR code to view the disclosure at your leisure. YRefi, investing in America's future.
Every day, bumps and bangs happen. Bruises are optional. Used daily, dermatologist recommended Dermend Moisturizing Bruise Cream can help restore your skin's natural barrier and reduce the appearance of bruises. If you have mature skin and bruise easily, get Dermend Moisturizing Bruise Cream in the first aid aisle and get back to having way too much fun.
Invest in Ukraine now. Ukraine is rebuilding, innovating, and shaping the future. Because Ukraine is the potential. Kyivstar is Ukraine's leading digital operator. Invests in Ukraine's connectivity, entertainment, ride-hailing, healthcare, and innovation. It's time to think opportunity. It's time to think Ukraine now.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at GetTrumpWatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time.
Not again.
Your cold is coming! Your cold is coming!
Thanks, Revere.
We really need to keep Zycam in the house.
Only if you want to shorten your cold. When you feel a cold coming, shorten it with Zycam.
All right, it's been 48 hours since the shooting at Brown University, and the suspect is still at large. The shooter opened fire on Saturday evening near the engineering building where the students were at a final exam review session for economics. Now, less than 90 students at Brown identify as very conservative, according to a recent on-campus survey. So is it a stretch for me to believe that this might have been a targeted attack, since one of the victims that was killed was the vice president of the Brown University College Republicans group? Another one student, an aspiring neuroscientist, was killed and 9 others were injured. Now, Providence police are basically useless, releasing a new video of a person of interest. You can see the person right there, appears to be wearing all black, walking down the sidewalk. There's really not much to go off of here, and I find it incredibly insane that there's 800 cameras on Brown's campus and no good shot. Modern age of cell phones, and basically everything is on camera. But this building was too old to have camera. This is what we've got to go off of? I mean, come on. Now, the FBI believes the suspect to be armed and dangerous because he did just shoot up a school, and is offering $50,000 reward for information leading to the arrest. Former FBI agent and fellow team guy John Gilliam and Senior Vice President of Gun Owners of America, Erich Pratt. Okay, so Eric, let's do gun laws first. Rhode Island, very difficult to obtain a gun permit. Brown University cannot have guns on campus, and this guy, here he was.
Yeah, and this is despite what you hear from the left. Guns were not the problem in Rhode Island, certainly not Australia either. In fact, in both cases, you could say a lack of guns was the real failure because law-abiding people were prevented from being armed.
Yep.
You know, I personally know 2 people who have stopped mass shootings, and in each case, they've used their guns to stop the bad guys before the police arrived, and that's how you stop a mass killer. But gun control in Rhode Island, as you pointed out, it made it more likely there would be no one armed who could fight back. And, you know, you mentioned that Brown University bans possession of firearms, so it's a gun-free zone. But the state also has universal background checks. It's got red flag gun confiscation laws. It has a 7-day waiting period for purchasing firearms. None of it worked. And it just shows that disarming law-abiding people doesn't stop mass killers, it empowers them.
But John, from a security standpoint, you know, put on your team guy and FBI hat here for a second. You got 8, they're saying that Brown has over 800 cameras. We've got cell phones, we've got everything, we've got witnesses. I mean, they said the guy rolled in and yelled something, but conveniently nobody knows what he yelled.
You know, I rolled into an investigation where we had a Times Square bomber put a pipe bomb in Times Square in 2008 and blow up the recruitment center there at 3 a.m. The person's never been caught. That's the most videotaped place probably in the world. So just because there's video cameras, Carl, doesn't mean that they're quality, because people don't pay attention to the quality of camera work. They just throw a camera up there, and there's probably better quality from these Ring cameras that you're seeing than from the placement of the cameras on the campus. But I would say overall, if investigators are looking at this, the cameras will help and in some case may identify. But I think the fact that this individual did not choose a soft target like a food court or a special event on a Saturday. He went into a building that is, you know, one of the smaller groups of people, an engineering building, and he targeted people within that building, in that area, and then left. So that tells a lot more to me. And going on, I think what he was saying there is that once a gun was invented, you'll never be able to take all the guns away from bad people. Right. You can pass laws and take them away from good people, but bad people, no matter what you do, will always have weapons.
Yeah. And they'll turn a lot of good guys into bad guys because they're not going to comply. And also, Eric, you know, it's like only a matter of time. Every time something like this happens, they blame it on Trump. Now, here is my lunatic Senator Chris Murphy, who's bad at everything, including breathing, sounding just super ridiculous. Roll this.
This is not shocking because over the last year,
President Trump has been engaged in a dizzying campaign to increase violence in this country.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, Senator Murphy's the one who's dizzying. What a ridiculous statement. Trump's not the problem. Guns aren't the problem. Leaving people disarmed is the problem. The police have no duty to protect you, and that's from the Supreme Court on down. When 911 is called and the police fail to respond, they're not liable. So you have to be your first offender, and Gun Owners of America is fighting to expand our right to carry across the country.
Yeah, look, I'm a testament to that. You guys backed me on my lawsuit against New York. We won. I carry a gun now. So awesome. All right, we got to leave it right there. John Gilliam, Erich Pratt, we appreciate it very much.
You got it.
Thank
All
you.
right, coming up, Trump awarded several service members the Mexico Border Defense Medal for their work to safeguard the southern border. They're doing a pretty good job considering 0 people are making it in. Big announcements on fentanyl, too. Next.
When I first decided to invest in gold, I was a bit nervous and unsure how to start. Luckily, I found Noble Gold Investments. From the very first call, they made investing easy. No pushy sales tactics, no gimmicks, and no confusing free silver offers with hidden fees. Just honest advice tailored to my needs, giving me confidence every step of the way. If you're new to gold investing or want a partner you can trust, visit noblegoldinvestments.com.
Nobody knows Corvettes like McMulkin Chevrolet, the world's largest Corvette dealer for 4 consecutive years. Last year, over 1,800 new Corvettes were purchased from McMulkin Chevrolet, setting a record for the highest number of new Corvettes ever sold in a calendar year by one single dealership. Experience why Corvette enthusiasts from all over the USA continue to choose McMulkin Chevrolet, with hundreds of Corvettes in stock and ready for immediate delivery nationwide.
Tired of dealing with those old clogged gutters in the wintertime? It's not too late to call Leaf Guard, the gutter that never clogs, guaranteed. Leaf Guard has earned the Good Housekeeping seal 20 years in a row, and it comes with a lifetime transferable warranty. And remember, in most cases, we can bring our factory on wheels right to your home and install Leaf Guard in less than a day. Call during this program and take advantage of our double savings sale. We're going to double your savings to 20% off a complete Leaf Guard system, double your bonus to a $200 Visa gift card with purchase, and double your free gift. Receive a $100 gift card with your in-home estimate. And when you get Leaf Guard, you'll have more time to go on vacation. And the first 50 homeowners who call will receive a vacation voucher with Leaf Guard purchase, used for a condo, hotel stay, or a cruise. Call 1-800-541-1274. That's 1-800-541-1274.
The difference for me with Leaf Guard is the gigantic icicles that used to hang on every corner of my home to this winter where there were none.
If you're tired of climbing a ladder, putting your hands in that icy cold water to clean out the gutters, you need Leaf Guard. Get it today, protect it for life. Don't worry about those old gutters hanging off, popping off your home this winter. With Leaf Guard, we attach it to the fascia with screws, not nails. It's not coming down. Call during this program and take advantage of our double savings sale. We're going to double your savings to 20% off a complete Leaf Guard system, double your bonus to a $200 Visa gift card with purchase, and double your free gift. Receive a $100 gift card with your in-home estimate. And the first 50 homeowners who call will receive a vacation voucher with Leaf Guard purchase. Call 1-800-541-1274. That's 1-800-541-1274.
We're dismantling the cartels very rapidly, and they are being declared enemies of the United States of America. They have been so declared, legally declared. More than 25,000 warriors have served in this historic operation. It is indeed an incredible and historic operation. And we've never done anything so effectively. We've had a lot of victories.
Well, that was President Trump earlier awarding service members the Mexico Border Defense Medal for their work to safeguard the southern border. President Trump obviously designated the cartels an enemy of the U.S. and fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction, which is a big win because it allows us new freedoms to combat it for 7 straight months. We've had 0 illegal aliens enter the country through the southern border, the lowest they've ever been since the 70s. Well, actually, since ever. I mean, this is exactly what I voted for. How does anybody have a problem with this? Chad Wolf, the executive vice president of the AFPI Center for Homeland Security and Immigration and former acting DHS secretary. Chad, I mean, I think this medal is long overdue, but the big thing is fentanyl, a weapon of mass destruction. What does this allow him to do?
Yeah, it's a great move by President Trump and his team. It allows new legal resources to be devoted to the fight, new financial resources devoted to the fight, new DHS resources devoted to the fight. So really, really important, declaring it a WMD along with designating the cartel as a foreign terrorist organization and all the policy changes the Trump team has implemented, I think tells the American people about how serious the president is in getting this issue under control, and then, of course, honoring service members, part of the military who are down there hand in glove with Border Patrol agents and others trying to protect that border and keep this illegal narcotics like fentanyl out of the country. I think just speaks to the seriousness of the situation.
Yeah, this is actually a real WMD too. It's killed, I mean, a teaspoon can kill thousands of people. This is one that we can actually see and touch and have recorded history of, unlike what we had in Iraq. But everyone says to me, like, why don't we make a law that prevents people also who come here from abusing our benefits? Because this is like the biggest problem why we wanted to lock down the border in the first place. And it turns out, just a little quick search that apparently not many people have done, but the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1882 allows the U.S. government to deny entry or a green card to certain non-citizens if officials believe that the person is likely to become a, quote, public charge, meaning dependent on government resources. Yet we're not turning any of these Somalis away. There's like 80% of the people in Little Somalia in Minnesota are receiving some kind of benefit.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think the American people say, look, if you want to come to the country and you want to come legally, then you need to make sure that you're not going to be a drain on the American people and take resources and welfare and whatever it might be. And in the first Trump administration, we actually put a public charge rulemaking out there that would do just this. It would deny people the ability to come in if they could not be supported. The Biden administration withdrew that. No surprise there.
Shocker.
And I think the Trump team is in the process of actually removing what Biden did and going back to the original intent of the law. So I know President Trump, his immigration team are focused on this. It's really, really important because these benefits are an incentive factor for folks to come here and to stay, right? If they know they're going to be able to live off the public dole and get these benefits from the American people, more and more people will come for that.
Yeah, no, it's bad. All right, assimilation too, big thing. But now there's people saying that if they regain power, the Democrats regain power, they'll actually come after ICE. Roll this.
Trump is out of office, we will come after every single ICE agent. Mark my words. We'll have videos, we will have proof, we will have names, and we will take you to the fullest extent of the law that we can, and we will make sure that as many of you as we possibly can get our hands on will go to jail.
Oh, yeah? How's that work, Chad?
I don't even know what she was saying. She doesn't know what she's saying because she doesn't understand the law. She doesn't understand what law enforcement can and cannot do. These agents are heroes. They go out and they do a very dangerous job day in and day out. They deserve our support. They should get our support, and they are under President Trump's administration. And look, these folks on TikTok and everything else, they're going to say all sorts of stuff. But those immigration officers are doing the Lord's work. It's a very, very difficult job that they have. Again, we should be 100% behind them.
Yeah, and again, look, she's welcome to take some of these illegals into her own home and provide a roof and food for them, but she's not doing that because she's full of it. Chad Wolf, we appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, before we go, another repeat offender released to wreak more havoc over the holidays. Watch this next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
Hi, I'm Ben Cozy. Isn't holiday travel a pain in the neck? You're cramped, uncomfortable, and forget about getting any rest. There's nothing cozy about airplane seats or hard plastic benches, and those so-called travel pillows, they just don't cut it. You don't need another travel pillow. You need Be Cozy, the world's most comfortable neck pillow. Trapped in the middle seat? Wrap Be Cozy around your neck to stop chin drop, bobblehead napping. Smashed up against the window? Fold Be Cozy over and tuck it onto your shoulder for super side support. Frequent flyer miles got you sitting aisle? Turn Be Cozy to the side for the perfect pillow position. Hey, everyone wants to be cozy, so get the world's most comfortable travel neck pillow and be cozy like me, Ben Cozy. You get to be cozy. Everyone gets a Be Cozy. Only Be Cozy has patented overlapping arms so you get double support and the comfort you need in any seat on any trip. Go online right now and get this special holiday offer. Buy one Be Cozy, get one 50% off. So don't wait, get yours now.
This holiday season, give a gift that means something. At Allegiance Flag Supply, every flag is proudly made right here in America by people who believe in what it stands for. For those who love our nation, there is no greater gift. Order now at showallegiance.com and make this year's gift unforgettable. That's showallegiance.com.
Your parents have given you some amazing gifts, but what about the inherited ones? Celebrate them with Ancestry DNA, the simple test that shows your deep family roots from your mom's side and your dad's side, with some serious detail. Trace the journeys and history that shaped who you are today, and see the traits they passed down. Your connections to the past are all waiting. See just how gifted you are for only $29.
The buy one, get one free sale has been extended at Cabinets to Go. Come in today and shop our huge selection of quality cabinets in the latest styles and colors you'll love. And here's the best part. Our expert designers will help you bring your dream kitchen to life with a free 3D design. It's never been easier or more affordable to upgrade your space. Visit CabinetsToGo.com to find the showroom near you. But hurry, these deals won't last long. Cabinets to Go, designed to wow.
All right, some quick breaking news, folks, kind of what I've been waiting for. The Daily Wire's Mary Margaret Olahan reporting that the War Department is escalating its preliminary review of Senator Mark Kelly to an official command investigation. Stay tuned for that, Jazz. But also remember this guy, the trashed raccoon who got wasted in a Virginia liquor store over Thanksgiving before passing out near a toilet? Well, it turns out, after an interjurisdictional review, he's actually a repeat offender, and according to Hanover County's Virginia Animal Protection officers, figures that, like all this liberal crime justice just letting people out left and right.
This is not the first time he's been in one of the buildings.
Oh.
Supposedly, this is like the third break-in he's had.
Really?
He was in the karate studio. I think he got into DMV, ate some of their snacks one time. Each time we get him out, we don't relocate him because that's a death sentence for raccoons. But somehow he knows how to get back in this building. He's a smart little critter.
It's this thing called a lock on a door that you're supposed to turn before you leave. But I mean, this is sounds like a liberal judge allowing repeat offenders just so they can go on, keep committing crimes. I mean, what's next for this nocturnal press? Perhaps they can relocate him to California so we can receive a CDL with no name given, Rob.
You like this raccoon story.
Dude, he's a triple offender. He's in the karate studio.
I love it.
Kung Fu raccoon.
Carl, we had the Christmas party today.
We did. I was there.
I know you ate
a lot of steak.
I know you did.
Yeah.
Good to see
Brought
you,
some
brother.
back, too.
I bet you did. All right. Good to see you, Carl.